only is she an uber successful real estate investor who here this part really is just like amazing to me. She managed 20 rehab projects at one time while she was pregnant with her daughter. Like, oh my God, give her an award. She completed over 100 rehabs in 5 years. And I did the math on that. That's 20 rehabs in a year, like almost 2 rehabs a month. And she did that for 5 years. That just, you got to have your stuff together to be able to do that. She's the founder and owner of South Atlanta REIA, which is now known as REI USA. And she's building it into a nationwide online education and networking platform for real estate investors. So in addition, she's just managing multiple successful properties and doing her own real estate investing on the side. So pretty cool stuff. So she's been featured on Bigger Pockets Best Deal Ever show, Scott Carson's Night Note America podcast, the Scalable Real Estate Investing podcast with Mason Clement. And she's also been featured in the book by Ken Corsini, star of HGTV's Flip or Flop Atlanta, Profit Like the Pros. So she's a fantastic educator and dedicated to empowering and helping people overcome the mind blocks that affect their success in real estate investing. And I would have to say, and I know you're going to agree, that she is leading by example. So please join me in welcoming the incomparable Stacy Rossetti. Stacy, we're thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to you speaking tonight.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow, I don't think I've ever had an introduction like that, man. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
You deserve it. Let me tell you. I
I'm
was just like,
good.
wow.
I don't even think Bigger Pockets did that.
Yes. Good stuff.
That's cool. Good. Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody on here. I'm going to teach everybody tonight how to get started in investing in self-storage. All right. So that's what I do now is I buy self-storage facilities. So if you guys are interested in self-storage, give me a thumbs up. I want to see who's actually truly interested. Okay, good. So people are actually, okay, good. Okay, do me a favor in the chat. Go ahead and introduce yourself to me. So tell me, are you a newbie? Like you've never done any deals, or like I've done a couple of deals, or I'm like, I'm commercial, or I'm apartments. Kind of give me an idea in the chat of who I have here in the group as well. All right. And I know Robin very well. So I used to own South Atlanta REIA. And she came down every year and taught as well. And I love her so much. So if you see her, tell her I said hi. Okay, Carl. And she knows my daughter as well. My daughter's name is Lillian. All right. So just tell her we said hi. But yeah, so love Robin. Okay, cool. Good. Okay. So who do we got here? We've got Will No Deals. Will No Deals. All right. That kind of rhymes a little bit. Awesome. Lease options. Okay, good. Steve, looking for my second deal. Okay, good. Awesome. You got to start somewhere, right? I'm a real estate agent, new to investing. Good. Awesome. Newbie. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. All right. So I'm getting to know everybody here. Okay, so I've been teaching how to invest in real estate for like maybe I think at least 8 years, 8 or 9 years. I've been investing in real estate now since 2010. And I got into real estate right in the upturn, which is was the best time, right? Because all the houses were like super cheap. And the thing is like all the houses were really, really cheap, but there was no money at all. So what happened is I got really good at learning how to raise money. And actually I had a coach, and my coach told me, so the only way you're ever going to make it in this business is if you learn how to raise money, right? And so that's what I did. And I became 100% privately funded. And I'm still 100% privately funded today. I buy all my storage facilities with private money. All right, we're going to get into that. Okay, we're going to get into self-storage here in just a minute. Y'all are going to have to take a lot of notes. All right, are y'all ready to do that? Okay, because I'm going to give y'all a lot of information. So I want you to feel like, you're getting something out of it. All right. So I'm not like the type of person that just comes in and blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to show you. What I call it is my 3-step process to getting into self-storage and business. This is what I teach all my students. Okay. So, and you can check me out. Just go to stacyrossetti.com. Check me out. You can find me on YouTube as well. Okay. So what we're going to do now is with self-storage investing, we're going to go over my 3-step process. Okay. The 3 steps are finding them, funding them, and running them. All right. Finding them, funding them, and running them. All right. Everybody, when I talk to everybody, they're like, how do you, how do you find storage facilities? How do you come up with the money for all the storage facilities? And and nobody ever brings up, how do you run a storage facility? Right. And the truth of the matter is that when you invest in self-storage, you're actually buying a retail business. All right. So it's kind of an investment, but at the same time, nobody really thinks about this. But once you buy a storage facility, you have to deal with tenants on a daily basis. And the thing about tenants is that you have no idea when they're going to call. All right. So they could call 8 o'clock in the morning, or they could call 8 o'clock at night. Right. So you have to be just aware that when you buy a storage facility, you've got to be open to be able to answer the phone, especially if you're getting your first deal. And you guys, I want y'all to know that where you're located, there are some awesome deals out there right now. You guys are kind of in like no man's land, right? Of Florida, right? So I have a student that just picked up 171 units in Florida for $400,000, right? Kind of in your area, right? Where it's like Georgia, Florida, like in between Ocala and like the Georgia line, essentially right there. That's kind of like no man's land of Georgia, I would say, right? And they just picked up for $400,000, 171 units, right? Which is a phenomenal deal, right? Because you can go like anywhere. I mean, if you go into Orlando or you go into Miami for 171 units, you're going to pay upwards of $1 million or more. All right. So they got a super awesome deal. So you're just kind of in that sweet spot. So just so y'all know, you're in a good location to learn how to invest in real estate and find storage facilities out there. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about my 3-step process. First of all, before I get started, what I want to do, I want you guys to think about storage investing. And first of all, right now, like, how the market is and how everything's going. How do you think, what do you think is happening to the storage industry? Is it like having a hard time? Is it like, is it going strong? Is it just like stable? What are you guys thinking? Put in the chat what you're thinking. What's happening? The real estate market is going crazy, right? The residential side. What's happening on the self-storage side? What do you think? Strong? Everybody says it's strong. Okay, yeah. Storage investing and purchasing self-storage, this is actually considered like we call it recession resistant, right? So essentially what happens is in a downturn, storage facility does great. And in an upturn, storage facilities do great, right? So that's why they call it recession resistant, which I love, right? Because what happened is exactly what Pam said. I got pregnant. And when I was pregnant, we were doing 20 rehabs, and we also had 20 rehabs in the pipeline. All right. We were literally like, it was just nuts for us. And I had like this baby inside me, and I was thinking to myself, like, how in the hell am I going to be able to have this like baby and manage 20 properties, like especially rehabs, because you do one rehab and you're running around like a crazy person, right? Think about if you have like 20 at the same time, right? So I started freaking out. All right. And so I told my husband, I said, that's it. We're not buying any more property. It's like, we have to figure out how to focus on passive income. And I had not focused on passive income the entire time that we were doing flips and rehabs. Like, I'd only just been like, all right, let's make another 20, 30, 40 grand. Let's do it. Right. And so like when I got pregnant, essentially like everything changed, right? That's what they say. Everything changed. Right. And so then I was like, okay, let's focus on passive income. And what happened is I had a realtor this is the same realtor I've used for the last 10 years that essentially would just feed me, property off the MLS. And I just basically pivoted and told him, like, start finding like property that I can invest in that can become like passive income. And so he sent me like multifamily. We were looking at like portfolios of houses and all this kind of stuff. And there just happened to be like 15 minutes from my house, a storage facility that had been on the market for 5 years and nobody had bought it, right? So now you can't see that anymore because like, you know, everybody wants to buy storage facilities, but essentially it had been sitting on the market for 5 years. And the reason why it had been sitting on the market for 5 years is because, of course, he was trying to sell it at the price it was worth if it was 100% full, right? But so I drove over and I took a look at it, and it was like the dumpiest storage facility you could ever find, right? So for me as a rehabber, right, I'm looking at this property and going, oh my gosh, I love this thing so much. It's so beautiful, right? And I was walking around and looking at this, and in my mind, I was like, this is a good deal. This could be a really good deal. And so basically I just said, let me have some time with the owner. I want to talk to the owner directly. And it was listed on the MLS. And so I went over and I met Big John, right? It was Big John Storage. All right. And it was like kind of off. It was like off the main street in the back, and it was in kind of this like industrial area that was like, you know, where it's like dump trucks and like they had like parking, and it was like for like tow trucks and dump trucks, and it was like just very commercial, right? Just very dumpy. And I mean, and literally Big John, like he built it in the 1980s. And he just like for 30 years, after like 20 years, he was just like, I'm done with this thing, right? And then so for the last 5 years or however long that he had it, essentially, he just was like, yeah, just go find a spot or whatever, just kind of this thing. And I talked to Big John, and essentially when I talked to him, I said, okay, John, so tell me a little about this place. I said, like, what's the, are you full? Are you not full? Like, what's going on? And he said, oh, yeah, we're full. And I was just like, oh, you're full. Oh, okay. Well, how much are you making? And he's not making about $2,000, maybe $2,300 a month. And I was looking at this place, and essentially what it was like, you kind of drove on, like, here's the main road, and you kind of drove here, and it's like over like this is where it is. So it's not on the main road. And there was just like one long skinny, like storage. And then all around this is just parking, right? And it's on a 3-acre lot. Now you can put probably on a 3-acre lot, you can put at least 150 storage facility units or more, maybe up to 200. No, that's not right. 250 to 300, 250 to 300. On a 2-acre lot, you can do 200. So on a 3-acre lot, you could probably do like another 50 or 100 more, okay? So you could put a lot. I mean, it's a lot of space, all right? And he just had 64 units. And then he had all this was parking, okay? And then he had just like dump trucks and tow trucks and like, these kind of like big rigs, it's basically, that's kind of what we do is we park big rigs, right? So I never thought I'd be parking big rigs, but that's what I do now, right? And essentially the reason why is because like, when you live like in a subdivision, they can't park their big rig there, right? A lot of them don't let you do that. So they need parking as well. All right. So essentially so what happened is like over the course of the last 10 years, this place became a dumping ground. There was probably about 1,000 tires everywhere. There was it was just parked like just crazy. We just have there was parking like this and like this. I mean, it was just like all over the place, right? And then also he was full. He told me he was full. I was like, awesome, you're full. I was like, tell me about, and I said, $2,300, you shouldn't be making $2,300. I was like, really? If you get in here and kind of like organize these are called lanes, right? Parking lanes. If you come in and organize this, right, you can really, and we ended up counting probably about 60 spots to park. All right. And then another 60 units, right? So it's about 120 to 125 spaces. So in my mind, I was calculating them. I'm just walking around and calculating each one of these lanes probably about maybe, let's say, you know, $50 to $75, or maybe even $100 if it's like a big rig. Big rigs will pay like $200 a month, right? But so this is like anywhere from 75 to, I'm sorry, like $50 to $75 per lane. So if there is 60 lanes that you can pay, you can get $50 from, right? That's $3,000. And then on top of that, this right here is like, you know, they're all 20 by 10s, and a 20 by 10, you could probably get at least $100 for a 20 by 10. You have to call the competition and try to see, but most of the time in this area, this is in Fayetteville, Georgia. You can get, let's just say, like, you know, $60 times 60 is 3,600, right? So I was calculating in my mind, like 3,000 plus 3,600 is 6,600. I was like, you should be making at least $6,600. I mean, that's like basically the bare minimum if you come here and organize it, right? And he was making like $2,000 a month at that, if that, $2,000 a month. So when he told me $2,000, essentially I was just like, there's no way. I said, how? I was like, how? I asked him, I said, how can it be full and only be making $2,000? There's no way. He said, oh yeah. I'm full, but like, that doesn't mean everybody's paying. You know, that doesn't mean anything. That just means I'm full. In fact, he said, pretty much all these units are full, and I never took anything out. He's like, I'm getting paid on maybe like 5 or 10 of these units, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So he just like, literally what was happening was that he was mismanaging the storage facility. He was not running the storage facility properly. Okay. So what that is actually, when you start looking for storage facilities, right? The finding them is the first step. You've got to kind of know what type of storage facilities are out there. And one of them is mismanaged facilities, right? And that's what I focus on. I focus on mismanaged facilities, because essentially what happens with mismanaged facilities is that you can get them for 25 to 50 cents on the dollar. Right. So I actually closed on a storage facility this past Friday, and I bought it for $375,000. And in 2 years, it's going to be worth probably $600,000 to $700,000. Right. So I bought it like 50 cents on the dollar. All right. The same thing for this. He was trying to sell it at $500,000. And that's when I told him, I said, John, I was like, this is not worth $500,000. I was like, your money, the numbers that you're giving me, it's worth only $200,000. Like, nobody's ever, first of all, nobody can go to a bank and get a loan for this property, because it's a mismanaged facility. And in commercial real estate, and when you start learning how to invest in commercial property, essentially, that it's an asset-based it's asset-based lending, right? So they're looking at the income, they're looking at the numbers, right? They're not looking at, like, they don't care if it's dumpy or not. If it's producing $7,000 a month, it's worth X amount of dollars based on the cap rate in that area, right? And so I tried to explain this to him, and I said, you're trying to get $500,000. That's why it's been sitting on the MLS for 5 years, and the truth is, it's really only worth like $200,000 now. In my mind, I knew I would pay $250,000, but I told him $200,000, and I said my number is $200,000, and the reason why is because there's no bank that's going to loan on this. You don't have any P&L, you have no balance sheet, you don't have tax. You're not going to give me any tax returns. You don't have anything to show for this. On top of that, you don't even have the numbers. All right. And so I'm going to have to go to like a private lender and borrow the money, and I'm going to have to pay a higher interest rate for that, because I'm going to pay a higher interest rate. I only can afford $200,000 for this property, right? And I kind of explained to him so he understood that, like, his number, nobody was ever going to be able to buy this for the number that he wanted. And so I offered $200,000, and then he's like, no. I'm not selling it for $200,000. I was say, well, my offer is $200,000. And in fact, I can close in like 30 days if you want to do $200,000. And so he said, no, right? I'm not going to do it. And of course, then like a couple of days later, he called me back. He called my realtor back and said, okay, let's do $250,000. And I was like, okay, I'll do $250,000. So essentially I got this property for $250,000. On average, it's making around between $7,000 to $8,000 a month. Okay. My mortgage on this is about $2,000, right? Right. So $5,000. Now, how much does it cost to run a facility? Right? How much does it cost on average? Is what anybody think of? What are some expenses that would come up for a storage facility? Put them in the chat if you want, or unmute yourself, either way. Management, there's like, you don't, and I have essentially, we own like, okay, so by the end of February, we'll have around 800 doors. And we have an office manager that works like 40 hours a week, and that's it. All right. I mean, so, you know, storage facilities do not need a lot, like they don't need a lot of work. And you would never hire a management company to manage this because it doesn't take that much work. The only thing that takes a lot of work in storage facility investing is answering the phones. And the reason why is because you have no idea when somebody's going to call. Right. So essentially the first person that I would hire is somebody just answer the phones, because I'm not going to answer the phones. But the way that we run our storage facilities, right? So we're going to talk the whole night about finding, funding, and running them, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. Running a storage facility, you usually are running your numbers at like 30 to 35% for expenses. Right. So for, you know, 35% would be like of the income that you make. All right. So $7,000. Okay. So another $2,000. Right. So essentially it's going to cost us $2,000 plus $2,000 for our mortgage. Right. So we're paying. So essentially we're netting about $3,000 a month. And that's basically how it works. We net about $3,000 a month every single month on that facility. And in fact, I have not been to that facility in like 2 or 3 years. All right. And we are completely electronic and completely virtual. We are what's called in the industry contactless, which is but we were like that like 5 years ago. Essentially what happened with COVID, all these like mom and pop shops that, you know, you drive to the facility and you sign the contract, they had a hell of a time, right? But we did not do that because from the very beginning, we were completely electronic and virtual. In fact, I teach my students, you know, if you're going to invest in passive income, make it passive, right? That's the whole point of having passive income. So for me, my rule is I have to be able to run my company from anywhere in the world, right? So that we can, because our goal is to travel 6 to 8 months out of the year. In fact, this past year, we traveled 6 months. We did 4 months, we did 16 national parks in 16 weeks from May into August. And then we also did 2 months in Maine at the end of the year, November and December. Right. And the thing is that you can run your storage facilities from anywhere that you want if you learn how to become virtual, contactless, electronic. And you do that by just having a project management software, right, to manage everything, and somebody to answer your phones, right? Because that's essentially the bulk of the work. Now when we bought this facility, right, the first year, I mean, it took us literally 18 months to figure out what we were doing. We had no idea, right? Now, like the second one got shorter, and now we're buying our 8th one. And it's like, in like 3 months, we got that thing down, right? We're buying, my goal is 1 a month this year. All right. We closed one this month, and we're closing one in February. We got one under contract in March. So once you get this going, I'm telling you, it's like, it's kind of like, it's very automated. It's just very easy to automate. Okay. So when you look at expenses for storage facilities, essentially you're going to calculate like 30%. For these types of facilities, I focus on $1 million or less. My sweet spot is probably around 200 to 500,000. That's kind of what I focus on, because we noticed over the course of the last 5 years we've been doing this, that that, you know, we can just manage these. So you just manage these easier. So what we do is we buy them in portfolios. So like we just picked one up in Valdosta, and like we picked another one up like in Waycross, and then we picked another one up like in Hawkinsville, which is they're all like an hour from each other. And essentially what we do is we create this portfolio. So now instead of having just like, you know, 75 or, you know, 100 units, we've got like 300 units, really. And the way that you think about storage investing is like, you want to kind of create these portfolios so that when you want to, if you ever decide to sell, it's so much easier to sell it's really so much easier to sell 200 or 300 units. And people don't understand this, but it's 200 to 300 is like super easy to sell versus like a 50 unit or 100 unit facility. All right. So that's kind of how we work. We call them portfolios. And then what we do is we hire a boots on the ground person to manage all that for us. And then our office manager is the one that just answers their phone. So very, very simple operation, just completely vertically integrated. We have an office manager, and then we have for each area that we have 3 different areas where we have storage facilities, and they each have one boots on the ground person. And that boots on the ground person essentially goes to the facility. In the very beginning, they go a lot to the facility, right? Because they're cleaning out units and trying to get things in order and stuff like that. But then after they kind of get that all done, essentially they just go once a week to like, you know, make sure there's no trash, sweep and broom sweep everything. And then, you know, and that's it. And just kind of like maybe lock people out or whatever. Right. So very hands off, essentially. Okay. Any questions on that? Just put it into the chat. Okay. Good. Yeah. So, and then I'll just go through, how do you evict? You have to have auctions. You have to have auctions to evict. So the rule is like you figure out in Florida what the auctions are. We just bought a facility. We close on Friday, and it's actually just like this one. It's like 50% full, 50% vacant. And then like I would say probably out of 110 units, I think it was like 110 or 120 units. I can't remember what it is. Probably about, I think we had like 30 to 35 are going to auction, and we just closed on those. It's just like full units that the owner never cleaned out. Okay. And so we're going to auction. We have to do the auction process. We have to go through the state of Georgia and do the entire auction process. So you have to learn how to do that. I'm not going to sit there and talk about that now. That's something that if you're interested in buying my course, my storage course, my husband actually does all that for us. So I find them and fund them, and then my husband runs them, essentially is how it works with us. And so he goes through in my storage course, and he like talks about auction and how he does it. He said how he systematizes and automates everything. Okay, so you'll see that in the storage course. Okay, so finding them and funding them. So number one, all right, there's 5 different ways to invest in self-storage. 5 ways. And actually, how much time do I have, Pam? Till 7:30 or 8?
Can you hear me, Stacy?
Yeah.
Okay, till 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Okay, good. All right, we got an hour. Awesome. Okay. Okay. All right. So there's 5 ways to invest in self-storage. Y'all can see this?
That's better. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, number 1, my favorite is mismanaged facilities. Mismanaged, okay? So mismanaged is you're buying them 25 to 50 cents on the dollar, all right? Mismanaged means that the owners are just sick and tired of them, all right? And so you got to get out there and find these, okay? Mismanaged means that you are going to have to come out of pocket when you buy the property every single month, because you are not going to make enough money to pay the mortgage. You're not going to make enough money to pay the expenses, right? So the one that we just bought in Valdosta it was $275,000, and it's making about $1,000 a month, right? And mortgage is going to cost like maybe $2,000. It's like $2,000 or something. But my lender that's lending me the money, because I have to borrow private money for this. Mismanaged facilities, you have to borrow private money. All right, because banks are not going to lend you money on properties like this. That's another thing with mismanaged. Okay. And so my private lender, essentially, I just say like, look, can we just like push the first payment out for 90 days? All right. And so then we just work it out like that. And then they just give me like a 5-year loan for, for it. It's going to take mismanaged properties. It's going to take you a year to get that thing up to 100% full. Okay. So you're going to have to come out of pocket every month for a year. And then when it starts getting 100% full, then you're going to start turning a profit, right? Start making a profit. And then it's going to take you, then you need 2 years of tax returns to show that you've turned the profit. And then once you get those 2 years of tax returns, what do? You go back and you refi that out and you get it at a lower interest rate. And right now, if you find what's called income producing properties, you can get some badass loans. I mean, my students are getting like 20-year loans at 4% interest. So if you can find a property that is producing, it's 100% full, and it's, basically you're buying a business. Hopefully there's a little bit of value add. Maybe you can add some units, there's some land, and you can build on it later. Maybe the prices are not the right price, so you can increase, right? Increase the cost, the rent, right? So that maybe there's a little bit of value add, whereas like mismanaged property, there's like a lot of value add, right? And the income producing is like less value add, more business, right? And so then you'll be able to, and these types of like income producing, the owners are like, yeah, I got my tax return. Yeah, because they're like all proud of running their businesses and stuff. They're like, yeah, I'll give you my P&L. I was making this much. It's worth this much money. Bam, like this, right? So then you just gather all that, and then you go to a bank and you get 4% interest. You have to put 20% down. That's another thing. You got to put 20% down with this stuff, right? When you go to a bank, you have to put 20% down. And you could go to SBA loan, and SBA loan is maybe you can get like 15% down or 10% down. Back in the day, you could get like 10% down. Now it's like, it's up, right? They're like, we want some more money down, right? But I mean, it'll probably go, it'll go down eventually to like maybe 15 to 20. SBA loans are a little bit more expensive on the interest rate and on the, but then let's see, so SBA loans are more expensive on the interest rate, like around 5 to 6% interest, but you can put less money down, right? Whereas like a local bank is going to give you, 4% interest with 20% down. All right, see how that kind of works a little bit? But so income producing properties are properties where you can get all the documents and you can take it to a bank and get a loan, right? What my strategy is that I'm like, oh my gosh, just bought this property and I'm gonna have to come out of pocket like $2,000 every single month. I guess I'll go find an income producing property to offset this mismanaged property, right? So now I'm just making them $0 essentially, but I'm not coming out of pocket. All right. So for instance, the one I closed this month, I'm going to have to come out of pocket a couple $1,000s. Well, the one that I'm closing next month, that's 100% full. I'm going to be able to pay that. I'm making $2,000 a month. So I'm balancing it out. So that's kind of how we strategize too, as well, as we balance out one versus the other. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. What are you doing? Too much information? Good. Thumbs up. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so mismanaged, and so it's really your personality. I mean, I'm a rehabber at heart, right? So like, and then I'm also 100% privately funded, right? I've been like for 10 years, people just, I just borrow money from people. So what happened is I just convinced my lenders to just roll that money over into storage facilities. Right. And that's kind of how I just moved into the storage facility world. And for me, just raising money, remember I said back in the day, there was a lot of houses and no money. So I learned how to raise money. Right. And my coach told me back in the day when I started 10 years ago, he was like, the only way you're going to make it is if you learn how to learn how to raise money. So I learned how to raise money. So I'm a money magnet. Right. So for me, I like mismanaged properties. And the reason why is because I want to buy that thing for, 50 cents on the dollar, and in 3 years sell that for double the price. That's what I like. Now, what you can do if you do have money is you could also get into new construction. There is not enough storage facilities in the world, right? We talked about the market is strong. Storage facilities are recession resistant. I just got off of a webinar from Marcus and Millichap maybe a week or so ago. Marcus and Millichap, if y'all don't know, is a commercial broker, and essentially they just it's like data. It's like commercial data is what it is. So anyways, they were talking like they only ever have like on these webinars, they only like the little people are never represented on these webinars. All right. We got the big people from like CubeSmart and U-Haul and stuff on there. And most of the time, see, those companies, they run their numbers at literally 70 to 80% full. Right. I'm running my numbers at 100, like 92% full, essentially is what we run our numbers at. They're running their numbers at they're happy if they're getting 80% full. Well, guess what? They're all full, 100%. Like essentially what they're saying on this webinar is they have never seen anything like this ever in the storage industry world. All these facilities out there, these big huge ones, they're all full. And they're saying build, like now is the time to build. And essentially, I think really kind of over the course of the next years, not only for commercial, but also for residential, new construction is going to be like one of the things that you should be focusing on, right? So if you are a new construction person in here, or you got like a strong stomach, because I've done some new construction, it's a lot of work, right? But if you got a strong stomach and you just got patience and you want to just do that, you can make a lot of money, because essentially new construction is 3 times, right? It's about $25 a square foot to build, right? You got to clear the land. You got to make sure with zoning that there ain't no issues, right? But essentially you can make a lot of money with new construction. It just it'll take you 3 to 5 years, 2 years to build and another 3 years to get that thing up and running and full so you can sell it. So you just got to be in it for the long haul, right? So I just talked to somebody on the phone that wanted to do a consultation with me, and essentially it took them 3 years to get the permit. 3 years to get the permit. Can you imagine? I was like, man, that's a long time. And then they borrowed the money. It cost them $500,000. They borrowed the money to clear the land and build the storage facility. And they have 150 units, right? They got it appraised at once it's 100% full, it's worth between 1.2 and $1.5 million. All right. And it's really but it's triple the amount of money that you put into it, but it's just a lot of time to get there. But I have students in my mastermind where they're just like, I'm in it for the long haul. Let's do it. So it's just kind of what's your cup of tea, right? Okay, good. New construction is the third way to get into storage investing. The fourth way is developing, right? Developing. And everybody's seen this. Everybody's seen this, right? I'm driving down the road and there was an old Walgreens, right? And you're like, oh, that poor building, what are you going to do with that thing? Guess what? You're going to buy that and you're going to turn it into a storage facility. That's what you're going to do, right? And I'm telling you, you're going to see this more and more and more. All these retail buildings office spaces and all this kind of stuff that nobody, is using anymore because we all stay in a home, right? Those are all going to become storage facilities, okay? You see more and more developing over the coming years as well, right? Because you can buy those buildings for super cheap. Now, cost money. It's going to cost you $1 million+ to buy something like that, right? So you have to have a lot of money up front. But usually you can get into those things for a couple $1 million. So if you're good at raising money, I have a really good friend that just all he does is developing. He's in those for $2 to $3 million, and he just raises that money. Okay, that's developing. Okay, that's gonna be something that you're gonna see a lot. And then finally, the last thing is one of my favorites: wholesaling storage. Wholesaling storage. All right. There are too many wholesalers in the world on the residential side. There is not enough wholesalers on the commercial side. I'm telling you, there are so many people out there that want to buy storage, and there's not enough people out there trying to wholesale storage facilities, right? I mean, I'll buy them, right? And I'm a buyer, right? So if you are a wholesaler and you're like, man, I ain't getting this residential thing, man. This is not easy. Because guess what? For wholesaling a storage facility, your marketing budget, if you do what I do, which I go through in the storage course, right? But if you do what I do, it's a $0 budget for your marketing budget. All right. Now, how much does it cost for you to learn how to wholesale? You got to have a marketing budget. I mean, you got to get letters out there and direct mail and all this kind of stuff. You know, all my students that want to do wholesaling, I tell them you got to have $1,000 a month. You know, it's like you sitting out, you can't just send out 50 letters here and there, the wholesale residential property. You're never going to get a deal. You got to be like, especially now. I saw Jacqueline is saying that she's like having a hard time finding deals. You got to get some, you got to market. The only way you're ever going to get deals is if you market, right? On the residential side. On the commercial side, you got to learn what you have to learn to become a wholesaler on the commercial side is commercial deal analysis. That's what you have to learn. You have to learn how to run your numbers on commercial property, right? Which is taught in the online course if you're interested in that later. But can't get into that because that's a lot. I mean, you can't really get into that. But I heard Carl was talking about cap rate in the storage investing world. Everything is about cap rate and square footage. So my mastermind is called Storage Nerds, right? So we're getting along, and I'm telling you, we do our mastermind, we're talking, and the only things you ever heard is like, what's the total square footage? I need to know the total square footage. What's the cap rate? I mean, that's what we're saying in our mastermind, right? So you start talking to storage facility people, it's all about square footage. Why? Because storage facilities are considered warehouses, right? It's insured as a warehouse. It's analyzed as a warehouse, right? It's not analyzed as a multifamily. All right, it's not a multifamily. It's completely different on the commercial side. You know, there's differences. It's just that it's not doors. Like you can't be like I said, I have 800 doors. Nobody cares about that. What they care about in the storage investing world is like, how much total square footage do you have, right? That's what we talk about, okay? So you have to learn how to do commercial deal analysis, right? If you want to wholesale self-storage. So for instance, I put one under contract on Sunday, posted it out, right? Just posted, I want to buy this thing because it's a really good deal. I got 50 units for 120 grand, right? On 2 acres. You can fit 200 units on 2 acres. And I got it for $150,000. All right. So this is a badass deal, right? So I just posted, I was like, yeah, I got me another deal. All right. And I got like 3 or 4 people was like, hey, you want to sell that one? I'll buy it. And they already like people are offering me like 200 grand for that thing. Right. And so with when wholesaling storage facilities, you're making 25 plus. Like I have one student in my mastermind, he made 100 grand on a deal, right? So when you wholesale commercial property, you just make so much more money. The spread is so much better, right? So I focus on like if I'm going to wholesale like this, I told the people that wanted to buy, I told them it's for sale for 200 grand. If you want it, that's what it is, right? Otherwise, I'll just close on it for 120, you know. But so I say if you're wholesaling and you're struggling with wholesaling, highly recommend you check out wholesaling storage facilities, okay? Because there is not enough wholesalers in the world, in the storage investing world. We are hungry for storage facilities. And guess what? There is a lot of storage facilities out. There's a lot of people that want to sell their storage facilities right now, okay? So how do you find these storage facilities? How do you find them? All right. Well, you do what I do. All right. The best way to find storage facilities is the way that I do it. I'm going to tell y'all, you cannot go online to find a storage facility. All right. Why can't you go online to find a storage facility? What do you think? Put it in the chat. Why can you not go online to find a storage facility? Because there's like Crexy and LoopNet. There's like commercial MLSs, you know, stuff like this, right? Why do you think? Too inflated, exactly. Craig said it. There's too many hands in the pot, and the prices are way too much. Number one, and number two, I have a love-hate relationship with real estate brokers, especially on the commercial side, because the truth of the matter is Most of them have no idea how to run commercial deal analysis. All right. They're just like, oh, I see this one over here is going for 3,000 a door. I'll do this for 3,000 a door. All right. Or whatever, And, and the thing is, I talk to realtors all the time, the commercial brokers, and they just literally have no idea how to run numbers. And they just come up with these numbers, like ridiculous numbers. And then what happens is that then the facilities just sit on the market because nobody wants to buy them. I mean, essentially, they're not doing anybody justice, right? So if you're a commercial real estate agent or broker, I highly recommend that you learn how to run commercial deal analysis for storage facilities. And just help the industry out, because I'm telling you, the prices are ridiculous right now. Okay. Now let's talk about cap rate. I know Carl's going to talk about this a little bit in his little group that he has. But essentially the way that it works in a city, like in an area, right, is you'll have like the city, right, is like right here. And then you have, this is like the primary market. And then you have the secondary market. And then you have the tertiary market. Okay. All right. This right here, most of the time is like a 5 to 7% cap rate. This is like U-Hauls, public storage, right? This is like all these, they're okay with spending $2 million to make $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000. Like, it's just like very weird to me because they have so much money, right? And they're all about volume, right? But right, so we can't afford these unless you got like millions of dollars, right? But I wouldn't even, if I had millions of dollars, I wouldn't buy that, because I can make $200,000-$300,000 just by buying a $250,000 storage facility. So I really don't understand the whole concept of going into the city, right? I just don't, right? And this is one thing that they said on the webinar. They said, the Marcus and Millitrap webinar, they're like, if you own a storage facility and it's not filled right now, you don't know what you're doing. That's basically what they said. All right. So learn how to run your facility. It'll be full no matter where it is in the whole world. Right. So for me personally, it's okay if you go to secondary and tertiary markets. In fact, we can afford this stuff. Right. So this is like $1 million. Right. And less most of the time, right? Okay, $1 million and less. And usually like I said, like I just picked up one, it's like Middle Georgia, and it's like 150 grand for 50 units. Okay, so that's kind of where you want to be focusing. So what I'm saying is that the reason why you need to be focusing on this, as you go out to these secondary markets, then you're going to have like an 8 to a 9% cap rate. Now you have to learn how to figure out your cap rate, all right, which is not in the course, all right? But like you have to understand cap rate. And then this is where you get 10% plus cap rate. So in fact, every single storage facility I've ever bought is always double-digit cap rates. Always, right? And it's not double-digit cap rate on like the buying part, because essentially I'm buying a mismanaged facility. So it's like a negative 2% cap rate when I buy it, right? But the opportunity is like 13 to 19% cap rates or higher, right? So ridiculous amount of cap rates. You cannot get this in multifamily. If you know multifamily, is anybody doing multifamily? I saw one person was doing multifamily. Like multifamily, they're like, we got a 7% cap rate. They're so hot. They're so happy with the 7% cap rate in multifamily, right? Whereas here in the storage investing world, we are getting double-digit cap rates. All right. The goal is to buy your property at the highest cap rate and sell it at the lowest cap rate, right? That's your goal, right? So you can buy at like, 10, 11, 12% cap rates and then sell it later at like an 8% cap rate, something like this. And people are just dying. Like I'll go into like Facebook groups for like storage investing and they'll post out like an 8% cap rate. People are like, where is it? Oh my God. They're just like freaking out over this 8%. And I'm thinking 8%, I would never even buy anything for 8%. So anyway, so that's what I wanted to show you is that. So now finding them, right? When you find them, you don't want to be like driving down in downtown of your like big city to like look for a storage facility, right? You want to be secondary and tertiary markets. So where are you guys? Where's Ocala at for the? Are y'all secondary or tertiary? Downtown? Is it like as you see some stuff downtown? What are y'all seeing? Where is everything? What are y'all thinking? Secondary?
My guess would be secondary and I don't know how you pronounce that, tertiary. Yeah, that would be my guess. I don't really see anything downtown. I mean, Ocala's kind of, our city is kind of small, but we see a lot of them in the outlying.
That's why I said y'all in such a good area. Y'all in no man's land, Florida, right?
Yeah.
So like this is like you guys are in such a great area to be driving for storage. Hashtag driving for storage. That's mine. Don't take it. All right. And let's do that. Hashtag driving for storage. All right. That's how you find storage facility. Guess what? You drive around and you find a storage facility, and then guess what? The phone number is right on the sign. All right. And you don't even have to do any skip tracing or anything like that. It's awesome. So my marketing budget is $0. Literally, except for gas money. My marketing is time and gas money. That's what my marketing budget is. All right. And I love driving for storage, right? Because I can like get away from my husband, get away from my daughter for a little bit and be like, all right, I'm going to go out and just drive and just like try to find some deals, right? So it's my driving for storage is what I call it. All right. And so when you guys are out driving for storage, make sure you take a picture of yourself like in front of a storage facility, be like, yo, found me a storage facility, hashtag driving for storage, and then tag me in it so I can see y'all out driving for storage. All right, because I want to see y'all doing this. And so what you do is you go to Google Maps, and then you just put in Google Maps storage. And all these storage facilities are going to pop up. All right. All of them are going to pop up. All right. You don't want to go to those because has anybody here ever tried to list a business on Google listing? Are y'all, is the RIA on Google listing? Are y'all a business on Google listing? Yeah, they'd be like, I don't even know. Yeah. So to list, Carl. So Carl knows, and I know Carl knows, to list your business on Google listing is a pain in the butt. Because you have to have an address. Storage facilities do not have mailboxes. Like 80% do not have mailboxes. All right. And you have to have a mailbox. So we just bought our storage facility. The one that we bought on Friday did not have a mailbox, was not on Google Maps, did not have a website. Okay, so this is what I call the hidden market. The hidden market. You have to find the storage facilities that are not on Google Maps, all right? And you have to go and find them. So the only way you can do that is by driving around for storage, okay? So that is your homework. That's step one. Step one is just to be like, okay, I'm going to go look on Google Maps and kind of see where they all are. And guess what? Where they all are at, I can guarantee you there's some that are not on Google Maps. That's because they all kind of go in cluster. You all kind of like clustery and stuff. Every once in a while you get like some random one that's like off, but they're all kind of like near each other. Okay. So that's step one, is you got to get out there and drive for storage. And then when you get out there and drive, guess what? The phone number's on the sign. You just got to call the number. And if an office manager answers, that is not the right facility. All right. You want to talk to a facility that the owner answers. All right. And so what happened? So what we did in November, right before Thanksgiving, so we left like actually the first week of November, the first weekend of November, because we left right after that to go to Maine. We went driving for storage. And we went down, like we drove all the way from, like, I live in Jasper, Georgia, which is in the mountains, or the North Georgia mountains. Okay. And we drove all the way down to Valdosta. And I was like, this is our spot, Valdosta. We're going to just start driving for storage. And we just drove, like, we drove down and we stopped on Friday. We stopped along the way and we just stopped at like whatever storage facilities we could find along the way. And that's the one that we put under contract on Sunday was one of the ones that we found, an abandoned storage facility by just driving around. It's literally an abandoned facility, just sitting there on 2 acres, like looking like a dumpy thing. If you follow me on social media, you'll be able to see what it looks like. Okay, so make sure y'all follow me. And so we went, like, so we stopped in and like try to, we have to try to figure out, there's no sign or anything. So we had to skip trace this one. Okay, so it's abandoned. And then we just went on our way and just kept driving for storage and looking for storage facilities. And we spent like all day Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. We drove like, I think 15 to 20 hours over a course of three days. All right. We found anywhere from 40 to 50 facilities, not on Google Maps, not on Google Maps. All right. And then guess what we did after we got those facilities? After we got that, actually what we did is, like, right when you're in front of that facility, you call. Because guess what? If the owner wants to sell, he lives right around the corner, I can guarantee you. All right, so that's what happened. So essentially, we drove up to one. This is in Valdosta, like on the outskirts of Valdosta. And I was like, oh my God, this is dumpy. Let's call this one. All right, so we called. And actually this one, an office manager, like supposed like office manager, answered the phone. So I was like, hey, like, just wondering. I said, I'm just wondering, like, if you like have any units for sale. If an office manager answers, I just talk to him like I'm a tenant. And I was like, yeah, I just wondering if you have any units for, and if you have any units. And she's like, yeah, we got some units. And that's basically how she sounded. And I was like, okay, well, how much are they? Like, what sizes do you have? She'll be at 10 by 10s and 5 by 10s and 20 by 20, 20 by 10s. And I said, oh, I'm really interested in getting one. Like, what's the price? And I said, do you have availability? She says, well, she's like, are you really serious about getting a unit? Because if you are, I'm going to have to go down there and look to see which ones we have available. That's exactly what she said. I was like the worst office manager in the whole world. So I was like, oh, no, I'm not interested, thanks, And I just immediately, we skipped trace and we found the owner. And we called the owner up. And he was like, hello. Like, you could just tell he was like old as dirt, right? And I was like, hi, is this Sammy Long? Because guess what? If you look up their property records, 80% of all the storage facility owners, that property is in their own name. It's in their own name. How crazy is that? They're just sole proprietors. Anyway, so called Sammy. I was like, hi, Sammy. I was like, is this Sammy? And he said, yeah, this is Sammy. I said, this is Stacy. I said, hi, I'm Stacy Rossetti. He said, do I know you? And I was like, no. I said, I want to buy your storage facility. And then there was like a pause. And he was like, when can you come over? That's what he said. And I was like, I could go over right now. He's like, I live 5 minutes away around the corner. That's what he said. And so I drove on over there and we sat in his living room for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, just like he told me his whole life story, right? And he wanted to sell that thing for $300,000. And it's worth probably like, if I bought it as is, it's not even worth that much. It's probably not even worth $150,000. And I said, I'll buy it for you for $275,000. That's what I can do. And he was like, you sat with me for an hour and a half. He's like, I really like you. He's like, fine, just take it. So we put that thing under contract right then and there. So the exact same way that you do houses and put that thing under contract, you can do the exact same thing for storage facilities. Just doing exactly what I just told you. Okay. Now, I know how to run the numbers and look at the numbers. So for me, I kind of know like if it's a good deal or not, right? Because I've been doing this for a while. But essentially the truth is like, how do you know if that's a good deal? And in fact, what he said was, He said every week somebody calls me, and I said my price is 300,000. That's it. When he told me, and he told me on the phone, he said I'll sell it for 300,000. I said I'll buy it for 300,000. Let me come over and talk to you. I knew if I went over there, I'd at least get a little bit cheaper, you know. And so I talked to him, and I kind of know like how to run numbers and like what these things are worth. I really just kind of know this. But the truth of the matter is that you've got to know, is it in a secondary market or a tertiary market? Right? And you also have to know what the cap rate is, right? You have to understand commercial deal analysis. So you have to know, you have to learn like how to run cash on cash return and your ROI and your yield. And like when you get into like commercial deal analysis and you're like talking like, and this, if you're a storage nerd like me, essentially like in my private Facebook group, people are like, oh yeah, what's the cash on cash return for that thing? You know, oh, what's the yield for that sucker? You know, that's like how we talk. All right, so essentially the point is that finding them, everybody's like, how do I find these things? Honestly, this is the easy part. This is the easy part. All right, running the commercial deal analysis, talking to the seller and negotiating with them and really getting that price to the right price is something that's very difficult. And then on top of that, funding them, that's going to be a hard part. And then also running them. Right? Because now if you buy this thing, right, we're buying this now, it's like, how do we truly make it passive income? How do we truly make it so that we can be anywhere in the world and go on vacation for like 6 to 8 months, right? And you have to be able to understand how to do that. Okay, so that's kind of how finding them is. Any questions on finding them? I just told you exactly how I find my storage facilities. So what happened on those 3 days that I went driving for storage, I put one under contract. That one we put right under contract. And I was with my acquisitions person training him. And he was like, oh my God, I just saw Stacy in action. That was awesome. And I was like, yeah, I was feeling pretty good. And then, so that's it. And then I had him go back and he just called and like, he's calling and talk to him. And we found a couple other ones. And when we were calling and talking to everybody, there was like 2 or 3 others that were like, yeah, I really want to sell. But it was like, the prices were a little too high. And I was like, now we got to go back and we got to work those numbers. We got to work it. And so what happened is like over the course of like I left to go to Maine and I came back the first week of January. And, we put one under contract, another one from that, just driving for storage, put another one under contract in December, right, which we closed like right at the beginning of February. And then we just put another one from that driving for storage, we just put another one under contract. We closed the first week of March. All right, so literally just from driving around for one weekend, I got 3 storage facilities under contract. All right. So it's not difficult to find the storage facilities is what I'm saying. Like everybody's like, how do you find these things? That's the easy part. The rest of it is kind of the hard part. Okay. Questions? Anything? Everybody sleeping?
No, Stacy, did you find all 3 of those that you just recently put under contract in kind of a close in the same area?
Mm-hmm. All the places that we just drove right, like from Valdosta to Waycross and kind of in that area. If y'all know that area, it's kind of that area where it's like no man's land near Valdosta is where it's at.
And so you were
going towards the water. So my goal is like to get towards the water. So storage facility over there. So I could be like, oh, I need like a home base. I need to be either, because I was like, I want to buy a house in Valdosta so we can have like a home day. That's only like an hour and a half away from the beach or something like that. And then I was like, maybe I can get another house like near Brunswick and that could be next to like, you know, go to the beach over there. And then I could have like 2 beach houses and then a whole bunch of storage facilities like right in the middle. That's the goal.
Okay. I wondered how you chose because it sounded like you were on a road trip and coming down from the mountains and then you decided on Valdosta, but you had a plan.
Beach houses.
Okay.
That was my goal. That's the underlying goal, some beach houses. And the houses are so cheap down here. I was like looking at houses, like, man, they're like, I was looking at like you can buy like in the middle of Georgia, you can find houses for like 20 to 50 grand.
Yeah, you can get a lot of bang for your buck.
I was like, yeah, I could just pay cash and have like a home base.
Yeah. Good plan. I love
Yeah,
it.
so that was the thing. And actually that's really is like, where did I want my beach property at? I was like, I'll either do like on this side or this side, and I'll just get some storage facilities in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, any other questions about finding them? Okay, all right, so now we get into funding them. All right, funding them. All right, okay, actually, let's go back to this. We kind of talked about this a little bit, right? We talked about this a little bit, funding your storage facilities. And it really kind of depends on which path you go down. The truth of the matter is you have no idea what your what the first property is that you come across, right? It could be a mismanaged property. It could be a cash flowing property, right? You just have no idea what you're going to find. So it's not like you can be like, all right, I'm going to prepare for funding for this way or whatever, right? It's really kind of like, what are you going to come across, right? So essentially with mismanaged facilities, right, you are going to have to be privately funded, right? Privately funded, right? So I own millions of dollars worth of storage facilities, and I have not put a dime of my own money into any of them. All right. So that's how you manage mismanaged properties. Now, I do come out of pocket to manage them on a regular basis, right? If I'm short or whatever. So that's me. But essentially, to purchase all those storage facilities, my lenders fund 100% of the loan. So I don't put any money into that deal at all. Okay. That is mismanaged properties. So you have to learn how to raise money. And I mean, essentially, if you want to be a real estate investor, you got to learn how to raise money. That's just how it is. All right. You got to focus on that. Okay. Number 2 is the income producing, right? We talked about this. If you find properties that are full, then essentially, and they're like producing income, and you can get a P&L and a balance sheet, then you're going to just take that and either get an SBA loan, get like some sort of commercial broker to lend you the money, or you're going to go to like a local bank. All right. And local banks have like the best terms. Like you don't want to go to Wells Fargo or like, whatever they're called, what they call Chase banks and stuff. You want to go to like local, like, whatever, like community banks and stuff. And they love lending on storage facilities. In fact, every bank loves storage facilities. Okay. All right. So income producing is that, right? So get the P&L on the balance sheet so you can go to the bank and get the loan. And then new construction is a bank loan. My students are getting bank loans left and right, literally left and right. The banks are lending on new construction right now. They are, right? So if you've got that 20% down, highly recommend considering new construction, okay? Just as long as you're patient. You got to just be patient with that, okay? And the developing is like syndication, right? That's syndicating. That's like really kind of like creating funds, right? And syndicating so you can do bigger deals. And then wholesalers don't need any money. As I said, you don't need any money at all for wholesaling. All you need is time and gas. Well, actually, you need gas money. You need gas money. That's what you need. Okay. That's funding. That's really the high level of funding storage. Any questions on funding? Anything you could think of? Okay. All right. Finally, we have running them. Running them. All right. How do you run your storage facilities? All right. The most important thing about running your storage facility is to be virtual, contactless, electronic. That's the most important thing, right? So gone are the days where you go and like sit there and have them meet them and get the contract signed, right? Gone are the days that, because like when we closed on the property on Friday, we met Sammy, right? Went over to his house and he was like, come over to my house and I'll give you the contracts. And then he gave me like the stack of contracts. And I mean, essentially and then he didn't even put the information on. I was like, why the hell did we even get this contract? Because in order to get the contracts, essentially you need all the information from all the tenants, so you can call them and let them know that you're changing ownership, right? Half of the numbers we called them all, 80%, all the numbers are wrong. And he has no email at all. All right, at all. I mean, so we're just gonna have to like skip trace and all kinds of stuff. We're gonna have to do auction and skip trace and all kinds of stuff. So essentially, like, it's not a good idea to like do everything paper form. First of all, you have to go meet everybody, and then you have to have an office. I mean, who needs you don't need an office anymore. That's just an expense. Who needs that? Nobody. All right. So then you just like answer the phone, take the information down, and then you just and then essentially you're gonna get a software that automates everything, right? So essentially, like, the contract is signed online, right? They get an account. They can go into their account. They can see all their payments. Just typical online. Online management for your for your properties. You can do this also, for your residential properties. I highly recommend that you check out Rent Ready if you don't have that. Great guy, Ed. But you can do the same thing with, like, there's software companies that they just made to manage storage facilities is what it is. Okay. So you figure out which one you want to do, you pick one, and they're all like, different types and different sizes and stuff like this. And we use storage is what we use internally. But there's all kinds. And as I said, you got to just like talk to them all and see which one best fits. Okay. We discuss this quite often in our mastermind and also on the storage course. Okay. And then what we do in the storage course is, like, once you buy your storage facility, there's a whole section in there. It's called maintenance, or sorry, not maintenance, management. And in the management section is like all the different ways for you to systemize your facility. I mean, everything that we do is in there. All right, that's the virtual, right? So you want to go virtual. Okay. Number 2 is you got to automate your auction process. Everybody's asking, everybody asks me, how is it like? Is it like Storage Wars? That's what I say, Storage Wars. And just want y'all to know, it is not like Storage Wars at all. Okay. In fact, what you'll do is you'll go put it in the auction. You'll do all the rules, do paper and all the things that you have to do. And then you'll get there to do the auction, and then like nobody shows up, or like maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 people show up, and that's it. And then you'll like open up the door, and then you'll look at, and they'll like basically look at it, and they'll be like $25. And that's it. Like, you'll get like $25. All right. So when you're running your facility, right, the goal is to get the tenants to pay, because you do not make any money on auctions. In fact, you lose money on auctions. All right. So you want to get the tenants to pay. That's the goal, right? So auctions and payment. You do not want to have an auction, because first of all, it costs you money to put it in the paper. You got to go there. Nobody's getting money. Then nobody gets it. And then you have to clean it all out. And it's just a bunch of just horribleness. It's horribleness. And we've never made any money on any auctions. I think one auction, I think we got like, I think one random, oh no, I know what it was. We opened up, nobody showed up to the auction. And you can have, when you have the auction, you can actually open the door. Right, so nobody's like, oh, nobody's here. All right, let's open it up and see. We opened it up, and it was like, it was all like restaurant stuff. It looked like the restaurant shut down, and then they just like filled it with like refrigerators and like those like tables and like all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this has got to be worth something. Come on. And so I put it on Facebook Marketplace. And like, I was like, come get this thing. I was like, $1,000 for the whole unit, and then somebody actually came over and like looked at it and like looked around, and they were like, we'll give you like $700. I was like, I'll take it. So we made $700 on that unit. That's the only time that we ever made any money more than like 25 or $50 on the unit. Okay. And we've done, over the course of 5 years, at least 100 auctions, at least. Okay. So you don't want to have an auction. Okay, look, I had a question here. What typically is the biggest hurdle getting started? Things your students find the most difficult for the first storage facility? I mean, honestly, it's really just more time consuming, right? So actually, oh yeah, no, that's true. One of the things that's the most difficult is getting hold of the tenants. Getting hold of the tenants. right? So essentially the way it works, like in my mastermind, the way it works is when you join, you're going to have it's going to take you, anywhere from 60 to 90 days to get your first storage facility under contract. All right. That's how long it's going to take to get you going. And then once you get it under contract, it's going to take 60 to 90 days to close, right? Because commercial property does not close fast. It even takes longer than residential, right? And like even we had like my lender was just paying cash and it took us 2 months to close. All right. And it was over the holidays. So maybe it's like a little bit faster now, but essentially like we put it under contract right before Thanksgiving and we closed just last Friday. So it took us that long to close and we were paying cash. I mean, the title just took like forever. So anyways, I tell my students like 60 to 90 days to find a storage facility, 60 to 90 days to fund it and close it, right? And then 60 to 90 days to do a change of ownership, get in contact with all of the tenants and things like this. And then after you kind of do that, you're like, okay, now, yeah, it's starting to go, right? The last 60 to 90 days is like, you know what? I'm going to be working on like automating and systematizing internally all these systems that I'm doing, and on top of that, I feel like I can get out and really start looking for another storage facility. And that's really how it looks. I've been doing this for a while, and that's like how I see my students working. So essentially, this is not like a get rich quick thing. This is like passive income, long-term wealth, right? Is what it is. All right. So good question. Do you have any kiosks? No need to have kiosks. A kiosk costs like 20 to 25 grand. Why would you have a kiosk when everybody can just go online? There's no reason to waste your money on that at all. And you can just go online. And what we tell our tenants is like, we only take with the payments here, we only take card. That's it. We don't take any cash, no check. Now, every place that we've ever bought, all they take is check and cash. And most of the time, especially with mismanaged facilities, that cash is not going on the record. That's for sure. They're just pocketing that and just going out and spending it. All right. So they're not keeping track of that. So essentially, but for us, we only take card, right? And it's drafted on the 1st of every single month. Okay. And, and 80% go through and 20% don't go through. And then, then my office manager's job is to just get everybody to pay. That's her job. All right. But that's kind of how it works. That's kind of how it works. Okay, good. What else with running can you think of with running? And it's hard to get into like really the nuances of running because you really have to kind of see internally how we see everything, which is in the course, right? Which is in the storage course. Okay. What else? Any other questions about finding them, funding them, or running them? I was going to ask y'all too. How many, one of the questions I like to ask everybody, how many items does a house usually have? What's the total amount of items that you have in your house right now? How many items? Take a guess and put it into the chat. All right. That's one question before we get into the course. How many items do you think everybody has? I want to see some guesses. How many items do you have in your 500K? 1,000? How do you only have 1,000 items? You probably have 1,000 items like right with an with a hand. This is like one. You should see my studio in here. I definitely got 1,000 items in here. That's for sure. All right. All right, too many. Pam says yes, too many. Exactly, right? On average, you have about 250 to 300,000 items in your house. Can you imagine 250 to 300,000 items? Isn't that ridiculous? And then people are still buying stuff and it's out with the old and in with the new, right? Now, another question I was going to ask y'all too, how many storage facilities are there in the United States? How many storage facilities do you think there are? The storage investing industry is actually the smallest industry in all of real estate investing. I mean, 80% of all storage facility owners are mom and pops, just like me. 80%. 20% are like the REITs, right? A public storage and U-Haul and all this kind of stuff. But 80% are just like me. just like me, right? How many storage facilities? 150K, Jeff says. That's high. That's too high. Yeah, it's a small industry. I don't even know if we could support 150K. That would be awesome, because that means there's a lot of opportunity out there. 63,000, that's closer. That's closer. There's about like 50,000 people is what it is. That's 50,000 facilities. Okay, so it's really can you imagine like 50,000 facilities just across the United States? That's actually, it seems like a lot, but there's not enough storage facilities out there. There's just not. Okay. Okay, good. I wanted to quickly, before we end, just go over my storage course in case any of y'all are interested. Okay. And I want you to, I'm going to share my screen real fast. Real fast before I share my screen. All right, let me do this view here. All right, so what did y'all think? Y'all got something out of it? Thumbs up? Good. Okay, good. You're gonna get out there and start driving for storage, right? And do
Awesome, Stacy.
It was good.
I will never look at storage. I'll never pass a storage building and look at it the same again.
Good. Awesome. Well, at least I did that, right? Okay, let me share my course with y'all, just in case anybody is interested in really learning how to invest in self-storage. Okay, now on my website, the storage course is on my website, the storage course is $19.97. All right. So if you go to stacyrossetti.com, which is right here, so you can go check it out. There's a little video about my storage course. It's normally $19.97. All right. Let me see if that's here. And here's my website. So if you go to stacyrossetti.com and you click on online courses, you can just scroll down and it's here. We do 4 payments of $597 or $19.97. Okay. Now, what I was going to do for y'all, if you're interested, essentially the way that my storage course works, actually, let me just write it out real fast so y'all can see. All right. I have what's called, I've been teaching this for years and years and years. It's called my 6-step system. All right. And Stacy's 6-step system to storage. All right. And so essentially the way it works is like your storage, your company looks like this. And this is your company if you're a real estate investor. All right. This is how your company looks. All right. You basically have 6 or 7 departments. I'll put these in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll just do an extra. Okay. You have, like, this is you, and these are all the departments of your real estate investing or self-storage investing company. Okay. You have your office admin. All right. Your office. This is like setting up your phones and like, Google Drive and all that kind of stuff. You have your marketing department. This is where this is all the different marketing strategies that you need in order to find your deals, no matter what it is. And then you have your acquisitions. Acquisitions is learning is essentially looking at the competition, running your comps, learning deal analysis, negotiating, putting offers in, essentially everything that you need to do to acquire a property is under your acquisitions department. Okay. And then you have your finance department. This is all the different ways for you to finance your deals, private money, hard money, banks, right? This is also your bookkeeping is under the department. And then you have if you're a rehabber, right? I know some of y'all are rehabbers, you would have your construction, or if you're going to do new construction, you would have your construction department, right? There's all the different things that you would do with new construction. And then you have your management department. This is the running part, right? This is all the auctions and payments and your software and all this kind of stuff, right? It's all there. And then finally, this is your liquidations. Liquidations are to sell your properties if you ever want to sell your properties, okay? So basically the way that I teach the 6-step system, the way I teach my storage course is exactly like this, right? So you're going to have access to all 6 departments. And within each of those departments is just like step-by-step instruction on what you should be doing in each of those departments, right? So how do you set your office up? How do you structure your company? What are the internal things that you should be doing right now to get your company running, up and running and ready to invest in self-storage? That's step 1. So you would get access to that. All right. Number 2 is you have the marketing department. This is like essentially me going over all the different ways that you can find storage facilities, but I focus highly on driving for storage and like Google Maps and really kind of showing you what I talked about, like going in depth on how to really do that. Okay. Acquisitions department is like just everything about like running. This is where you're going to get, and it comes with my deal analyzer. You need a deal analyzer. The storage course comes with mine, right? And then we go over how to use the deal analyzer, how to run the numbers, how to do the offers, how to write the contracts out, how to negotiate, everything that you could, how to look at the competition and stuff. So everything that you really need in the acquisitions department is right there. And then also finance. We go over how to find private money, all the different ways of finding private money, and then how to get all the other loans or anything else that you need, depending on what the type of facility that you find, right? We don't do construction, right? That's for rehabbing and stuff like that. And I don't get into like new construction stuff for storage facilities. So that is not included. Management is in there. So that's all the systems, everything, auctions and software and everything that you need. And then liquidations is like, all right, I'm going to wholesale this sucker. And we get into like wholesaling. Right. And there's a whole section on there, like how to wholesale storage facilities. OK, so it's really like step by step. And you get access to this. Once you finish this, you get access to this, kind of like takes you through the whole thing. OK, also on top of that, you get what I call my jumpstart course. This is like, man, I don't want to go through all that whole damn course. I got time for that. All right. So then you can do my jumpstart course. All right. This is 4 hours of me just like this, essentially, just like you should be doing this, this, and this first. And it gets you all pumped up. You're like, all right, I'm going to get out there. That's the jumpstart. So that you get for free, and that's included. And then on top of that, you get like all these bonuses, right? So do y'all know Alan Cowgill? Alan Cowgill? So he did like a bonus webinar, how to find money for self-storage, how to find private lenders for self-storage. So he does like this whole webinar. Do y'all know Randy Hughes? Randy Hughes does land trusts. Okay, so he teaches land trusts. So he said, how do you buy storage facilities with land trust? So I buy all my storage facilities with land trust. So he gets in and he teaches that. Like, I don't want to teach that, right? So he teaches that for me. I got all these different like special bonus speakers to come on, right? This is me working in the RIA industry for all these years. And I'm like, hey, can you come do a bonus session for me? And they're like, sure, right? So I got all these bonus sessions in there as well. So, so essentially that is the storage course. So if you're interested, I'm selling it for $14.97 tonight. All right, it's $14.97, and we can do also. I think we set it up to do payments. So I'm going to put this link in here for you. Did we do payments? I'm not sure. Yeah, he did. He did. My guy, $4.99. 3 payments of $4.99 for y'all. Okay. So I was going to put this into the chat. So this is it here. So this is where you would I'm going to send this link and you can watch this little video. And here's some bullets. Here's where you would do the payments, right? And here kind of explains it a little bit down here. And then here's some testimonials of some students or whatever. But so this is the sales page. So I was going to put this in the chat. So if you're interested, this sale ends tonight. This is not go on. This is just for y'all. Because normally I sell my course for $19.97. Okay. Okay, so that is going to be put into the chat. If you have any questions for that, I'll put it right here. Make sure it works. Let me know if y'all can get that. Click on that and make sure that it opens up. Okay, click on that and make sure it works. And that'll go on for till tonight. So if you're interested and you want to move forward, that is available for you guys. Okay. Did you have any questions? Anything else about self-storage or the course? It works. Good. Thank you, Carl. Okay. Okay. I guess my job is done. I guess that's it. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you so much. I'm here for you. Okay.
That was awesome, Stacy. Thank you so much. I can't believe all the information in your course. The business part alone setting up your business. I know when I started out real estate investing, that's huge. It's so critical, and so many people struggle. They don't know how to do that. So that you include that, that's pretty amazing.
Yes, yes,
That
yes,
part alone
exactly.
was
Yeah, it took
huge.
us,
I
it took
mean,
us a while to figure
yeah.
that out. So I try to help everybody with that as well too. And Randy talks about land trust and how to set everything up as well too. So that's really good. Okay.
So that's interesting. So you put these, you hold title to the storage facilities in a land trust.
Yes. Everything I buy is in a land trust.
I love that.
Yeah, essentially what happened was probably about 5 years ago, my CPA was like, you can't buy any more properties in this company. Like, you can't do it. You got to figure something out. And so then I just really kind of got out there and I was like, okay, what should I be doing if I'm buying all these properties? How should I structure this? And we really we're so convoluted. I have no idea what we're doing. In fact, my husband handles all that for us. But yeah, we're all over the place. Nobody knows how much real estate we actually own. Not even I do. Because it's so hidden.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know you could do commercial property in a land trust.
Yes,
So I learned
totally.
something. Yeah.
You can even find lenders
that.
that will do SBA loans for you in land trusts. You just have to know how to do that.
Yeah, good stuff.
Stacy, I got a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. We put this recording up online tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay.
Will you extend the discount for anybody that didn't show up tonight?
Sure. How long do you want me to extend it for so I can tell my team?
What do you think, Pam? Like 3 days?
That would be great if you're willing to do that.
Okay. Sure.
You know, at 48 hours, if that's too much to ask, because I realize that, you know,